another video. It is a daily dose of God's promises, and today we're talking about God promised to correct us, right? God promised that He ain't gonna just leave us out there to not know anything and to just fend for ourselves. But He promised that He would teach us and correct us, right? So that's what we're talking about today. The promise is coming from Proverbs 3 and 12. It says, for whom the Lord loveth, he corrects. Even as a father, the son, even as a father, the son in whom he delighteth, right? Um, and then, so I just want to, for more context, I just want to go ahead and read Proverbs 3 and 11 as well. So, my son, despise not the chastisement of the Lord, or the discipline or the instructions of the Lord. Neither neither be weary of correction, or don't resent his rebuke, right? And if you want to look at it, it's just like it was saying earlier that um, God is going to make sure that he train you up. He's going to discipline you as a father. And so that's what he's saying, that he promised that he will correct us. It's like anybody, like, would you rather for me to just tell you tell you the truth and hurt your feelings, or or would you rather, just to keep you from doing something wrong? Or would you just rather for me to just let you go ahead and just do whatever it is that you want to do, when don't say anything, and then you end up hurt, or some kind of way, in harm's way, or just looking real foolish, right? Which one would you rather have? And that's why it was talking about, don't despise or resent his rebuke. Don't um, get weary of his correction, because his correction is there to make you better, right? The correction is there to make you better, because he know your potential. So he's there to correct you, to make sure that you have the best and be the best that you can be. And then I pulled up a couple other scriptures. Let me see if I can get there. So Proverbs 13 and 24 talks about um whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their child carefully, this is like a version, carefully is careful to discipline them, right? And then the other one says that he will discipline them, and it's in time, so early, right? Early in their lives, early in their walk. He makes sure that he go ahead and discipline. A father go ahead and train them up and discipline them and correct them while they're young, before it becomes a habit, right? So that's exactly what God does. And just to prove that to you, it's like, well, okay, so first of all, let's go back to this about the rod, because I know people will talk about that, right? People will talk about sparing the rod. Like, I don't beat my kids and all this kind of stuff like that. I'm not saying that you should beat your children all the time. Like, you could correct them with words. You could correct them by showing them the proper way to go. Now, I looked it up, and as far as a shepherd, because God is our good shepherd, right? So it says that when a shepherd uses the rod, they only use, they only use it to correct the sheep, right? They use it to correct the sheep, and that's only after continuous misbehavior, like them wandering off from the flock, and eating those things that looks desirable but is poison to them. Hence Eve, right? Eve looked at something that was good and pleasurable to the eyes, but it was harmful to her. It literally caused death. So that's something that we should be looking out for. Like, God only used the rod in the point of you're just being defiant and disobedient, after many times that he can send warnings after warnings to us and try to redirect us. Like, that's when he had to pull out the rod, because he got to make it sting so you'll remember, and it's after several times, and he doesn't do it to like be mean, to be hateful, because like we're getting on his nerves or anything. He does it to protect us. He does it so that we don't fall into some sort of harm or wrongdoing. And then just to talk about that a little bit in Deuteronomy 8, actually 1 through 5, but 5 is like the key verse that we're talking about. Knowing then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. So if you think about it, like 1 through 5 is Moses pretty much explaining to them or reminding them of the things that they've been through with God, and how as a father he took care of them through the wilderness. um Make sure that they had food, make sure that their clothes and their shoes didn't wear out, things of that nature, and how God was there and protected them when their enemy was coming up against them. So the same thing, and Moses just telling them that just like that father will protect you and feed you, he also want to make sure that he protects you and that you learn the proper things, so that your life can be well. So if you go back to verse 1, that's what he was saying. Like, God gave us these commands and he wants you to follow these commands, not to be mean, but just to make sure that you have a well life, a prosperous life. And so that's what we really need to understand, that this discipline that God gives us, that he promised that he would do, is not to just be mean and angry and just to be a ruler of an with an iron rod. Just, I don't know, like, he is doing it for our protection because he loves us so much. You would discipline your children and fuss at your children or whatever it is to make sure that they're safe. You would teach them things to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they have the things that they have. Have you ever had your kid where you say, hold my hand, right? Hold my hand. Don't run out into the street. Hold my hand. And then all of a sudden, the child decides to run out in the parking lot or run out in the street. And it, in that moment, your heart is so scared and worried for the child. And you run out and you snatch him. And then it's like, why are you doing this? Like, I just literally told you to hold my hand. Why? Because I know the danger that is out there, which is why I told you to hold my hand. Those are the same things that God does for us. And so just to continue on with that, like, he really just wants the best for us, y'all. He's not doing it just to be evil or mean or anything. And then that's the funny thing, because he said as they're young, they carefully discipline them, right? He's careful to discipline them. So make sure that you're training your child up. Do you really love your child? Again, like before, are you training them up for success? Are you training them up for success? Or is you just letting them do whatever? Like, you really need to discipline your child, just like God loves us and he wants to discipline us. And a lot of times people want to say that, God is mean or evil and just want us to, God just want to rule us and make us our life boring. No, he knows what's best for us. He has created us. So he knows what's best for us. And so he's going to do the things that need to be done and tell us the things that needs to be, said, to make sure that we're in right standing. He created the earth. He created us. So of course, why not listen to the person that created everything, as your instructions to life? Like, come on. Um, but let's see where we are. So it's just like, um, okay, so in our Bible study, we was talking about it, the Thessalonians, and how in the last days, like, God send these warnings through his prophet, to let them know that, hey, the wrath of God is coming and that we need to be ready. We need to be prepared because he's coming back for a prepared people. And those that aren't prepared will suffer wrath. Like, at the end of the day, like, God is telling us and sending these warnings for us to live holy, to live righteous, to build a relationship with him. Because if we know him, we will know the difference between him and the Antichrist, and we won't be fooled, and he won't, like, lure us out to the point that we'll go to hell. Like, Come on, y'all. God is doing these things, is disciplining us, is training us up so that we'll know, so that we could be prepared. Um, he don't want like the enemy to trick us or deceive us. He wants us to know him so that we can recognize it, right? It is not his will that none of us perish. So we should make sure that we're taking God's corrections so that we can make sure that we're in right standing with him. Um, and because for those that didn't listen to God, after time, that good shepherd, after a while, he has to pull out the whip. He has to pull it out. He has to pull out the rod, and he's not a God that he should lie. So the punishment, the wrath is coming, and he's not, like, you're doing it to yourself because you're the one that didn't listen. If you tell your child, don't jump off that chair because you might break your leg or bump your head or something. When your child decides to jump anyway, they're going to suffer the consequences, and you didn't do it to them. Like, they did it to themselves. And that's the same thing with God. Like, we're doing this to ourselves when we don't listen. So God, when we don't listen to God, so when he comes back, then it's like, okay, so with the Thessalonians, he was just like, you know what he was saying was, if you keep on, and when that time come, I'm gonna throw my hands up. Like, there's nothing more that I could do, because God will not go against your will. And if you want to use um your human nature, he said that he'll throw his hands up and he'll just, step back and let the enemy do whatever it is that he wants to do to us, or trick us, or even just leave us to our own evil nature, our own human nature, right? And then eventually, like, we will feel the wrath. We will feel the wrath of that, right? But let's see. And so, like, if we keep going and keep going, and we decided we don't want to listen to God, then on Judgment Day, like, you're going to be found guilty. Just as plain and simple as that. Like, we're going to be found guilty if we do not decide to obey God. And so then uh, your eternal punishment will be hell. Please believe me that it will be hell, because God is not a God that he shall lie. Like, this will happen. So, excuse me, y'all. I don't know what's going on. So, like, just tell me, like, what would you rather have? Would you rather, like, have someone hurt your feelings, like God punish you while you don't get something that you want, or whatever, um, in that moment, so that God can teach you something, so that you can enjoy this life, have a glorious life here on earth and for eternity, like in heaven? Or do you want to just be free to do whatever you want to do without anybody saying anything, and you just end up, like, looking crazy or getting hurt, or um again, found guilty, in the end times? Do you want to be found guilty? um so this morning, while I was doing my reading, I just so happened to flip open the Bible, right? And I landed on Ezekiel 12 and 21. And it was talking about how um, God sent all these warnings and things to his people. And people are like, even now, they're like, oh, well, they've been saying this for the longest. Like, Jesus is soon to return, or God is going to send his wrath, or whatever. And then they taking it as a joke because it hadn't happened yet. They was like, oh, it ain't happened, so it's probably not going to happen. And then they just keep going on about their day, with no worries or concern about what God has said, these warnings. And they choose to just disobey and do their own thing. And so God told them that proverb that you're saying that, oh, this been happening on and nothing ever happened. That proverb is about to change, that he's changing the proverbs, and it's going to be a new one. And it's going to be that God is going to do just what he said he was going to do, that God is pouring out his wrath, just that, like he promised. And y'all, we just don't want to be caught up in that. Like, you don't want to be caught up in that. So please heed to his correction now. Please heed to it, because he's saying that it's going to come, that his wrath is going to come. And he's saying, and it's not even just that he's going to come. Like, even if he don't himself come down, he's saying that you're going to feel the wrath in your lifetime. Like, because you're not taking this serious, that he's going to make sure that he's going to fulfill just what he said, that he is a God, that he's going to fulfill just what he said. And that the wrath of God is coming, and that if you don't take it seriously, like, you're going to be caught up in it. Jesus may or may not come in your lifetime, but best believe that the wrath is coming if you're choosing to disobey God. Because in Proverbs 11:21, it literally says that no wicked person, or every wicked person, you know, one version says no sin will go unpunished, but the other one says that the wicked person, which is a person who is doing wrong on purpose, who is literally disobeying God, that is doing things to people just because, out of spite, because they want to have people's downfall. Those people that God is surely saying that he's going to bring his wrath, even if he don't come, but you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it, that those evil people, the wicked people, is going to feel it, is going to get the wrath. Every wicked person will be punished. Best believe that. And guys, as your sister in Christ, as a believer, I'm asking you to please, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you just think is so great that you don't want to obey God, whatever it is that you're doing, stop now. Turn to Jesus, because soon it'll be too late. Soon it'll be too late. And I don't want you to be found guilty. I don't want you to feel the wrath that is coming. But God has promised that it's coming. And it's coming in your lifetime, because you're choosing to disobey God, because you're choosing to be wicked. So, guys, please heed to God's correction. He has promised that he would correct you, because he don't want you. He do not want you to be found guilty. Okay? So, heed to God's correction. He's sending it. He's sending the word even now. His word is true. Read the Bible. Please, I do not want you to be found guilty. So I love you, and until next time, bye-bye.